Pal, the first Director General of Indian Council of Agricultural Research, and also who has served as the director of the prestigious institute, the Indian Agricultural Research Institute. Dr. Pal was one of India's most distinguished scientists, well known for his contribution to crop improvement, particularly breeding of superior disease-resistant wheats, and also known for his interest in rose varieties. At the outset, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome the esteemed dignitaries, the Honorable Chairman of today's program, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, Secretary DARE and Director General ICAR, the eloquent speaker of today's lecture, Dr. Ravi P. Singh, Distinguished Scientist and Head Wheat Improvement Global Wheat Program, CIMMYT Mexico, respected Dr. AK Singh, Director and Vice Chancellor, IRI, and Dr. Rashmi Agarwal, Dean and Joint Director, IRI. A warm welcome to all of you. Before we proceed further, let us first pay a respectful homage and floral tribute to the pious soul of Dr. B.P. Pal. Thank you. Let us also now pay our tribute to Goddess Saraswati with the Saraswati Vandana. you. With the permission of the Chair, I now humbly request Dr. AK Singh, Director IRI, to welcome the August gathering and to kindly introduce the Chairman of today's program.
Thank you, Angel, and very good evening to each one of you. On behalf of the students and the staff of IRI and my personal behalf, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Ravi P. Singh, the distinguished scientist and head Wheat Improvement Global Wheat Program at CIMMYT, who has kindly accepted to our invitation to deliver the prestigious 29th Dr. V.P. Pal Memorial Lecture on the topic, Wheat Breeding for Global Food and Nutrition Security under Climate Change. We are greatly honored in welcoming Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, Secretary there and DG ICR, who has kindly consented to preside over this function. I would also like to welcome distinguished invitees. We have with us Professor R.B. Singh, Professor R.M. Singh, and Professor B.D. Singh, the three distinguished teachers of Dr. Ravi P. Singh. And it's a great occasion to have them all here. And along with them, we also have three contemporary students who studied together with Dr. Ravi, and they are Dr. Prabhu, Dr. AK Singh, and Dr. Arun Joshi. So it's a great pleasure to welcome you all on this very important occasion. My warm welcome to Dr. S.K. Vasal, Dr. P.L. Gautam, Dr. H.S. Gupta, Dr. S.K. Datta, Professor S.L. Mehta, Professor Anupam Verma, Dr. S.N. Puri, Dr. Mrityunjaya, Dr. R.K. Jain, and Dr. Vijay Raghavan, who has kindly made it possible to grace this occasion. I am pleased to welcome the Deputy Director Generals and the Assistant Director Generals from ICR headquarters. We have with us Dr. D.K. Adwa, ADG Seeds, Dr. G.P. Singh, Director, Indian Institute of Wheat and Barley Research, Directors of Sister Institutes of ICR and IRI campus, and Directors of Postgraduate Outreach Program of IRI from different institutes. We would like to welcome them all. I would also like to welcome my Joint Directors colleague, Dr. Rasmi, Dr. Tomar, Dr. Indumani, Project Directors, Dr. Man Singh, heads of the divisions, professors, faculty members, staff, and students who have joined this webinar. I take this opportunity to briefly mention about the prestigious lecture series. The Dr. V.P. Pal Memorial Lecture Series was initiated by Professor M.S. Swaminathan to commemorate the contributions of late Dr. V.P. Pal on his birthday, that is May 26th every year. Dr. Benjamin Pierre Pal had his early education from Rangoon University and PhD in genetics and plant breeding from Cambridge University, UK, and he joined IRI at Pusa in 1933 and remained associated with IRI throughout his life. Dr. Pal became Institute Director in 1950 and was appointed as the first Director General of reorganized ICAR in 1965. Dr. Pal established the Postgraduate School of Higher Learning at IRI. The Institute has dedicated its central garden and auditorium and an art gallery in his name. Dr. Pal was highly decorated and honored with many prestigious awards, both at national and international levels. He was recipient of Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, and Padma Bhushan. He donated major portion of his property to IRI for the cause of agriculture. His state property at Simla and at House Khas in Delhi, he donated to IRI. This morning, we had organized a prayer at his House Khas residence. To chair this memorial lecture, we have with us Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, Secretary there and DG ICR, who is a teacher, researcher, and research manager par excellence. Dr. Mahapatra had long innings of involved teaching and research at IRI. He has made phenomenal contribution to science of genomics and genomic-assisted breeding and human resource development in this field. And this is a great pleasure to have you, sir. We are greatly honored with your kind presence and with your consent to chair this important lecture. Once again, I would like to welcome each one of you to this very important and memorable occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now request our honorable and respected chairman of today's program, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, sir, to formally introduce today's speaker to the audience and also to invite him for the lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Very good evening to everybody. It's going to be evening shortly. Dr. Professor R.B. Singh, Professor Vasal, and many other distinguished scientists who are present. And it was said Professor Gautam is also here, and many other seniors, guides and philosophers, and who have been actually guiding us. They would be here. Director IRI, Dr. KV Prabhu, Chairman Plant Variety Protection Authority, and also the faculty of the Institute, everybody else who are linked to this program today virtually. I see Dr. R.K. Jain and Dr. Rashmi Agarwal and several others, those who have joined, Professor Bansal, and uh, maybe several others. I don't know. I don't see many of them. Professor Mehta. And so welcome on my own behalf. And thanks, Dr. AK Singh, Director IRI, for inviting me to be part of this program. And profuse thanks to Professor Ravi Prakash Singh for agreeing to deliver this lecture, which has been already explained. This is 29th Dr. B.P. Pal Memorial Lecture. Many stalwarts in the past have delivered this lecture, and today you all know that we have another world-class scientist, Dr. Ravi Prakash Singh, to deliver this lecture. Dr. R.P. Singh is a distinguished scientist and head of wheat improvement program, the global wheat program at CIMET. So he has been there for quite long, since 1983, starting his career there as a postdoctoral fellow in the wheat program. And since 1983, he has been climbing the ladder as associate scientist for about a year or two, then geneticist and breeder, senior geneticist and breeder, and subsequently becoming the coordinator of a global project on wheat resistant to diseases and pests, in the year 1998. So, and subsequently becoming principal scientist and head of the wheat improvement for durable rust resistance, and continued to be climbing the ladder to be the leader of flagship 3 better varieties to reach the farmers. Then head of the Global Wheat Improvement Program, and now 2005 onwards is the distinguished scientist. So currently is the distinguished scientist and head of the Global Wheat Program. Dr. Singh, in fact, was a student of the famous Banaras Hindu University, BSc and MSc. He did from Banaras Hindu University, and then went to the University of Sydney to do his PhD in agricultural genetics and biometry. That he earned, the degree he earned in the year 1983. So I don't know how many of students, those who are here in genetics, were burned by that time when Dr. Singh completed his PhD degree. More importantly, it's not just completing this, but very importantly, he earned university gold medal as a best BSc student, honor student, and also university gold medal as a best MSc student in genetics and plant breeding at Banaras Hindu University. So that's the kind of achievement as a student Dr. Singh had. And subsequently, he moved on, and post PhD, as I said, he joined CIMET as a postdoctoral fellow and then climbed the ladder. And during his distinguished career, spanning over 30 years, it's over 40 years now, close to 40 years. So he has won several awards, honors, and a long list of that. And I will not be able to really read; it will take time. But I can mention a few that he's a fellow of the American Society of Genetics, fellow of the Crop Science Society of America, is a fellow of American Phytopathological Society. He has been recognized as an outstanding CGIAR scientist, receiving the award. And also he's fellow of the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Not only that, he has won awards from several countries. For instance, he has got award of that is called Kaiun Award, that was of China, and similarly another award that is Jinning Award, again China, and several other awards. EC Stackman Award of University of Minnesota, USA, and several awards for outstanding papers on genetic resources and other aspects of genetics, on various occasions. CIMIT Mexico Recognition Awards, 10 years of service recognition, 25 years of outstanding service recognition. So he has been continuously being recognized by CIMIT itself, where he worked, and that speaks volumes about his contributions in wheat and developing a large number of varieties. So also he's a visiting professor in Yokohama City University, Japan, adjunct professor of the Department of Plant Breeding and Genetics, Cornell University, and there are various other ones. He has been recognized with a high degree of citation, highly cited researcher 2021, and starting from 2027 by Clarivate Analytics. He has also received Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award of Government of India from President of India, and that's another recognition, a very important one. And he has been also, recognized with a Crop Science Research Award of Crop Science Society of America, a long list, a Lifetime Achievement Award that is Norman Borlaug Global Rust Initiative, Cornell University. So that award he has been also conferred with. There are several other awards. I will not go into those details, but that shows his contributions and significance of his contributions. What are his contributions? And that is very, very important. My colleagues who are here, they should know that during this distinguished period, he has developed 681 varieties. I repeat, 681 varieties, and which are being grown in 48 countries. And out of these 681 varieties, 254 of these varieties have been bred by him as the leader. And I repeat, 254 varieties bred as leader, and rest 427 as a team member. So imagine the kind of efforts he must have put, and the number of varieties every year being released in number of countries through this international wheat improvement network. And that shows that he has worked in a team, and a very productive team, and a highly successful team, and contributing to global food security in the process. Because these 48 countries which are growing those varieties, they are annually covering about 40 million hectares, and 30 million farmers growing these varieties. What a huge kind of effort and contribution. And very importantly, annually adding additional income accruing from these varieties to the tune of $2 billion US. And what a significant contribution of Dr. R.P. Singh. And in the process, contributing to productivity improvement, contributing to built-in resistance to particularly rust diseases, and in the process contributing to environmental health, because disease resistance means lesser use of pesticides and in this case fungicides, and in the process better healthier environment. So that is what it is. And whether it is Asia, whether it is Africa, whether it is Latin America, and many countries of the world, addressing food security and nutrition issues through these varieties. So very, very significant contribution. And building human resource, training a large number of scientists from these countries, from Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and in the process contributing to human resources across the globe, and who are now contributing to wheat improvement. So that is again another important milestone. He has published articles and reviews totaling 359. It's a very huge number of articles, research papers he has published, and several other book chapters, symposia, proceedings, and so on and so forth. So that is in brief what Dr. R.P. Singh, Dr. Ravi P. Singh, as he is known very popularly, Dr. Ravi Singh. So we are also pleased. It's a huge contribution, Dr. Singh, and at a global level. And we are all proud of you. I mean, we as Indians are proud of you and your contributions. And that's what I was telling yesterday to some of the senior colleagues from CGIAR system who visited. I was telling that how India has contributed to the CGIAR and why India deserves a better place and representation in the whole system and in the whole functioning of CGIAR today. So not just that India has done well, and India has collaborated and derived mileage out of this collaboration, but how significantly our people have worked at CGIAR institutions and contributed and built global agriculture, and and then addressed poverty and malnutrition and hunger in the world. And this is a beautiful example, a case of Dr. Ravi Singh. So Dr. Singh, I congratulate you profusely for your very, very significant contributions to not just wheat breeding, but in the process addressing global hunger and malnutrition and poverty, livelihood security as well. So with these words, I welcome you and invite you to deliver the 29th Dr. B.P. Pal Memorial Lecture. So Dr. Ravi P. Singh Saab, floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for such a kind introduction, respected Dr. Mahapatraji. I was not expecting such a long introduction, but it's always nice to get it. And also I thank Dr. AK Singh ji, the Director and Kulpati of IRI, Dr. Rashmi Agrawal ji, also Dean and Joint Director there, considering and inviting me for this prestigious lecture series. I also like to welcome, first of all, I think very important, our future, the students who are going to build the future of agriculture and other areas. My respected teachers here, thank you for giving the base I have and joining today. I feel really proud and thankful to you for what you taught, the opportunity we had, and also like to say that the current students take the opportunity which you are getting and then build on that as you move along. Also, many of my wheat colleagues, other colleagues working in other crops, other areas, and friends also, so I like to say that, first of all, I'm in Mexico, so I like to greet everybody, and my greetings from the other side of the globe. And once again, I like to say that it's a great honor for me, which has humbled me also today to deliver this lecture. There's such an important lecture number 29th of the B.P. Pal, Professor B.P. Pal Memorial Lecture. And I also like to pay my highest tribute and appreciation and respect to Dr. B.P. Pal for his enormous contributions in shaping Indian agricultural education, research, policies, and development. I think those work which he started has led to us where we are today. So we cannot forget that. So what I like to do today is share how our wheat improvement work is evolving to meet the future demands for in increasing the wheat productivity. And as from breeding side, we could talk about through genetic gain. So what I like to do is share my screen and start the lecture after this brief comment I had. Okay. No, sorry, I shared the program. I need to share the, okay, here it is. So I hope you see the screen
we can,
clearly.
yes. Yeah.
So first of all, I like to just tell few things about wheat. That wheat is currently grown nearly in 80 countries. That's why you get the data when you start to explore. And in all continents at diverse latitude, longitudes, and latitudes. That means wheat is such a crop which can be grown very widely around the world. It contributes to 20% of calories and proteins in human diets. It's the largest traded commodity. I think you are very well aware of the situation, how India has contributed this year more than, as I know, 7 million tons, 7.5 million tons of wheat, and probably will contribute more to the countries which need it. And that has been possible thanks to the work of many scientists, the policy makers, and the farmers who have worked very hard to produce such a large quantity of wheat. But we also have to recognize that demand is increasing due to population and urbanization. Just to give a brief statistics, in last year, for which data is available now, roughly 778 million tons of wheat was harvested from 223.4 million hectares with an average yield of roughly 3.5 tons per hectare. So if you compare that with the yields 10 years back, which was only 3.1 tons per hectare. So we have increased in 10 years productivity by 400 kg on the average worldwide. So what it means? but it shows that there is still a future to continue progressing. That's the way I see it. We have not plateaued. And that's how we have to be looking what we can do in the future to build. Because if you look at the future and the projections, and if you take the FAO's scenario, which they projected that we should be increasing yield around 1.6% annually. Currently, worldwide, it's roughly 1%. So if we continue with that pace, then we will have roughly 300 million tons of shortages in 2050. There are other estimates which say we need to increase yield by 2.4% per year. And that means if we continue our business as we do now, roughly 1% per year, globally, I'm talking globally, we will have roughly 300 million tons of shortages. What effects it will have on prices, you can imagine. You know, small shortages have already spiked the wheat prices, not only in India, but worldwide. And having said that, you know that Asia is the largest contributor of wheat worldwide. I guess rice is even much more than that. So Dr. AK Singh, your contributions and the contributions of rice scientists is equally valued, even much more valued perhaps than the wheat group, because our contribution in wheat is roughly 44%. But what I mean to say, if we have not only the highest share of production, but we also have the highest share of population and consumption. So we have the utmost urgency to continue enhancing productivity in our fields to meet our needs and the neighbors' needs if that happens. And that's so much important to improve livelihoods and incomes of our smallholder farmers. By the way, throughout the developing countries, farmers are wheat farmers, rice farmers, these are all smallholders with less than 2 hectares. In some countries like Ethiopia, 0.3 hectares is the farm size. So now let's look at India. So India has done so well also, you know, when we talk about wheat. So wheat is the largest food crop after rice. And in last year, we had the record production. And as we were talking some years back, we were thinking, will we ever achieve 100 million tons of wheat production? But we surpassed that. That is the great news and also gives us the great hope that, again, I want to say that because a lot of times we only hear pessimistic views from people. The average yield is very similar to global average. So you could see that similarity. In India, the average yield last year was almost 3.5 tons, which is very similar to global yield. But when you start to relook at it, we also increase slightly the land area, you know, so our production, if I compare 10 years period, production increased at the rate of about roughly 3% annually, 2.9%. Area increased by 0.7%. Grain yield, if you just say yield per hectare, increased at the pace of 1.9%, which is much different than probably in local press people might be reading. But we also did a little bit of analysis on this and drew the regression for every 10-year period. And Dr. G.P. Singh, you will really like it to see that in the last decade over here, the pace, if you draw the regression line, it's roughly it comes to 1.84%, very similar to 1.9, which I in the last slide mentioned. But if you look at in kilogram, it's little over 52 kilograms per hectare, which is quite good compared to any, is quite good compared to any other period you look, except this period between 2000 to 2010. And that is a period where we also know some varieties were grown for a very long time. You know, they were hard to displace. So it explains by itself what was happening. The issue comes now is, can we maintain this impressive growth under climate change scenarios? And the answer is, to me, is yes, through improved genetics, production practices, and favorable policies, which are central to productivity growth. We cannot break them apart. They need to go side by side. And everyone has here something to contribute. And that's the way we have to see and progress. And I'm so glad that Indian government, our agronomists, and everyone is putting great effort to ensure that it happens. So I want to go back a little bit in the history and talk about this, that what happened. I mean, we hear about the green revolution phase, but we also need to know what was the reason behind that. And very often we talk about the shuttle breeding, Smith's shuttle breeding strategy, which was utilized or established by Dr. Borlaug to accelerate the whole breeding process. So in Mexico, he used this site, which is almost at sea level, very dry, where you could, it's called Ciudad Obregón. Some people call Mecca of wheat. At this site, you can, it's irrigated site. So side by side, you can conduct yield trials to have very high yields, or you can create very high drought stress by controlling how you apply water, because there's hardly any rainfall during crop season. So it's one of the best sites for do many phenotyping. Then in the shuttle breeding, in the summer season, he brought all the materials to highlands. There's a site called Taluka, El Batan, where CIMMYT headquarters is located. They are at very high altitude, even higher than Shimla, 2,640 meters. You have very different environment there, rainfall pattern, temperatures, day length. And so by alternating the selection and advancing the generation, Dr. Borlaug could cut the breeding cycle length to about 5 years, you know, than usually what would have taken 9 to 10 years. So that was a big thing that time, and it still is for us, because it has given in wheat germplasm what we call wide adaptation through photoinsensitivity, yield stability, multiple disease resistance, and reduced breeding cycle time to deliver faster genetic gains. So not only we could reduce the breeding cycle length, but also seed multiplication of elite line, they could be delivered to partners, but still it took 7 years. So please remember 5 years and 7 years here, because that I think is important. And time has come that we apply approaches which could reduce the both. Also, he initiated to share all the elite lines he was generating with partners through different international yield trials, which obviously with time have expanded. and became more targeted to different environments, and screening nurseries, disease-based nurseries. So these are annually distributed, new materials to anyone. In fact, the partners need to request annually. It's not that it's just sent automatically. You need to make requests. You need to provide paperwork, which are becoming more cumbersome these days, to ship the materials, I guess for you also to receive. But this has continued since then. And there are partners which are playing such an important role. And I think ICR also, and the ICR institutions, as you will see coming up here, just to show how last year, how we have such a good collaboration and partnership with practically all wheat institutions. Anyone working in wheat in India is linked, is connected in this partnership, which the International Wheat Improvement Network, if you want to call. So everyone benefits from this work. And that is the most important part, because wheat is still a public funded crop. It's not yet privatized, let's say, like some other crop. So we all are moving together with this. The elite lines can be released as variety freely. They can be used as parent. There is no restriction on that. And that is the heart of this partnership and the reason why impacts have been made. So there was a study done for the 10-year period between 94 and 2014, thanks to many of the colleagues here who would have contributed the information. And based on that, what you see is in the main target regions, South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and North Africa, roughly half of the varieties were, half of the released varieties were selected out of these yield trials and nurseries, tested widely, and then released locally. And there were another over 30% varieties were developed locally, but used parents out of these elite line share. So, and just much, I have a small statistics for the last 5 years. I think it's very important for Dr. Mahapatra also to know that the collaboration is such that we don't even separate our program with Indian program, a program in Pakistan. We feel and work like one program. And that feeling, thanks to all my colleagues there, needs to be maintained for solving future issues or future needs. So 34 of the 51 varieties released by Central Variety Release Committee or State Variety Release, or some private sectors who have shared the information, they were selected out of the elite lines. And we are really humbled and value this partnership, because that's the only way we could deliver impact from our work. And that gives us reason to continue working harder to ensure that we don't fall short of this delivery path. The data you have returned for over the years, now it has become very important in CGIAR. We need to establish a baseline, how much genetic gain we have delivered in the past and in the future. So to sustain funding, we have to increase it at least by 50%. And this is like, has become mandatory for one CGIAR breeding program. So the data received from partners, what we nowadays we call, before we called the mega environments, you called zones, the Northwestern Plain Zone, Northeastern Plain Zone, or Central and Peninsular Zone. Now we call target population of environments, though that's the language being used. So it's a TPE1, TPE2, and 3. These are the 3 big ones. And it got reestablished after the agroclimatic data and yield data we reanalyzed once again. And you know very well about this, and there are always some overlaps in between. But more importantly, came out that the trials which you grew and selected lines, if you see the yield gain, I have these 3 trials are the most important one for different zones. The minimum was 2%, and it goes as high as roughly 4%. That's how the entries on the average have performed. Their yields have increased over time. So that's the way you have to take it. You know, it may not reflect the best performing entry, but out of these trials, you can get some best performing entries. So that is what came out of the shuttle breeding program. So what is happening now, I like to share also that we are reinforcing our wheat breeding objectives. And the way I see it, and many others definitely see same way, that you group your objectives into 2 pools, let's say, or 2 groups. The first one is genetic gain for productivity associated traits, which are yield potential, climate resilience for yield stability. And what is that? That is basically heat and drought tolerance. Durable resistance to major diseases and pests which occur in any region. We don't want big shocks happening. So that's why resistance durability is important. Resistance, the way we see it, is like free insurance to our farmers. They don't have to pay for it. It's the breeding programs have to do it as their breeding objective. Obviously, as Dr. Mohapatra said, it has much larger effect on climate. And in Europe, you know, that they have set a target that fungicide use needs to be reduced. So genetic resistance is once again picking up as important trait over the use of chemicals. So we don't want to slip on that. Then the second aspect would be genetic gain for market acceptability and nutrition. There are demands from industry. There are demands if you want to trade your wheat. We have to follow on this, even though farmers may not see, they want to get good price for what they produce, but these are market needs. And then from humanity's side, the biofortification needs, I think there's not much to say now. We have hidden hunger in a large population of people, a lot of them living in South Asia and Africa, most of them. So we have to do something. Every crop needs to do something what they can do based on what kind of variation they have. From genetics point of view, we know that all these traits are complex and quantitative genetic control. And we need to do simultaneous selection to develop better varieties. So that's very simply said. Then really you do it in practice. Practice is much more complicated. So we need to continue refining the well-tested approaches to accelerate genetic gains. I'm not talking about dramatic or drastic changes that need to be made. So in CGIR, we had to look at our targeted environments, build our product profile to ensure we are breeding something which is really needed out there. You don't do breeding for the sake of breeding. We need to select as well as possible high-performing parents with needed genetic diversity. so much important if you want to deliver genetic gain is the selection of parents. I think Dr. AK Singh knows about it in the breeding. There's not much I need to say about it. All breeders know about it. We have to select proper crossing and selection schemes apply. You don't want to increase costs because costs are very important. You cannot say, I need more money. You don't get more money. You have to do it with the same amount of money, same amount of funds. We need to improve our phenotyping under well-managed selection environments. So whatever you see, you believe. You know, it's not that what you see is, I don't know this year what happened. And that is important to deliver genetic gain. New technologies and such as genomic selection, which has been talked about these days. I'm not going to talk about gene editing, which has huge promise if we apply in a very well-focused way. But that's not the topic of my talk today. Anyway, targeted enrichment of breeding gene pool, pre-breeding, use of land races, but in a targeted way, synthetic way, using related species and genera. And you will see a couple of examples how it has paid off in the past. And I don't have to say much about the faster delivery and dissemination of new varieties, but yes, I will have a slide on that because I think if we want to reach farmers faster, breeding only delivers part, reaching to farmers is the another aspect which we need to work. So we have redefined our breeding into different breeding pipelines. You can give a different names here, or you can call it market class for our wheat materials in the future. As we move towards this kind of approach, more targeting the market segment with product profiles or lines which are going to be shared, they meet that product profile. There's too much detail here, but maybe later on you can see with ease what they are for our breeding program. Just in summary to say that 55 million hectares is our target worldwide. 31 million of that is in India. And when you put South Asia together, it becomes over 40 million hectares. In fact, it's becoming close to 42 million hectares now in South Asia. So whatever matters for South Asia matters for CIMIC. So, and we have to make sure that's how it stays, Dr. Mahapatra, and your effort pushing that agenda in 1CGI-AR. And anyone else who is here is so much important that you push your needs to 1CGI-AR rather than 1CGI-AR pushes what they think needs to be done. So we go back also to a breeder's equation. Is nothing new, but one of the most important part in breeder's equation to deliver higher rates of genetic gain is to reduce the breeding cycle length while you maintain your selection intensity, selection accuracy, as well as useful genetic variance. If we can maintain that, and if we reduce the breeding cycle length, then there is high chance that we will deliver higher genetic gain, as shown previously by shuttle breeding by Dr. Borlaug time and subsequent years continuously. So this is what is happening for in all 1CGI-AR breeding programs. So how are we responding? I think we can very quickly talk about. It didn't take too much changes, let me say that, but it's more like refinement. So the changes what we have made is we take 1 year, for example, before we could take only 2 generations, make cross and grow F1. But the way we have adjusted it, in 1 year, we make cross, grow F1 and grow F2. So we have to do this. We have this facility of a screen house, which allows doing lots of crosses. People can sit there whole day and keep doing emasculation, because Taluka is a high rainfall site, but with a screen house that allows you to work longer hours. We did try, and we have this speed breeding facility, but I find it too costly to grow large number of materials. So we have moved to field-based advancement in early generations, like in F1 and F2. I just share some picture. And we find it so much easy to do it right in your field, by adjusting sowing time. So we could do that very easily in 1 year. Year 2, we dedicate to field selection, because we don't want to lose out the power of selection in the field. So we miss, let's say, selection in the F2, but we then put effort in F3 and F4 in the field. Year 3, we again continue with selection, seed multiplication, apply genomic selection at this stage to discard the lines which we don't like to advance anymore. Do lots of phenotyping, and yield trials is happening now in year 3. Year 4, this concept to expand your testing with in the TPEs, the target population of environment, with your partners, that has been established already, I will show, with South Asian partners. So in year 4, we already have whatever we developed with our partners, and you get multiple site data, and very quickly you know what materials you want to recycle or use as parents, or you want to advance them in your product development. And we start to recycle parents from year 3. So that shortens, and keep adding a smaller number of better parents as you develop more and more information. And based on this information, also we could eliminate crosses which were made. If the parents were non-performing, you eliminate them. So the stage 2 testing has been expanded as already. So everything is happening simultaneously. It's not that it's a plan. All across South Asia, this phenotyping network was expanded this past season in all 3 TPEs. So we want to move, and data has started to come, which is a great thing to see. And I again thank all the partners, the ICAR, the IIWBR, to facilitate, because this will give us a lot of learning in the next few years. If this model, what are the issues? What should we do to further improve it? What sites we could add to it? Which site we should eliminate because we are not getting good data from there? So I think this year was the first year trial, and I think it has gone very well. I cannot undermine the accelerated seed multiplication. And I think ICAR, IIWBR has shown it how to do it. And we have a lot to learn, and other countries have a lot to learn from this as well. They have gone big way with adopting the pre-release seed multiplication strategy, licensing to a large number of small private seed producers for dissemination. They do large number of demonstrations, and outcome has been DBW 187 released in 2019, now sown on more than 4 million hectares in the past season. So this is the power which is in the hands of people there, and has been shown how it can be done. So this should be implemented in climate change scenario everywhere. So your varieties, which have some gains, reach farmers much faster. I have some comments on genomic selection. We have invested more than 10 years learning about it, learning for what traits you could have much higher predictability, for which traits which still need to learn more, improve more, and also know our limitations. So if you see the quality associated traits, whether in the same year you use prediction or across year, like use the previous year data to predict untested material, predictability is very high compared to yield-related traits where the predictability drops, because that is the reality, because yield data you use is also subject to many issues, including heritability, the environmental effect. But same time, while all these materials were genotyped, we are also learning some of the things like genetics of grain yield, heat tolerance, quality, grain zinc, resistance to diseases and pests, and some other things which will be coming hopefully in the future. But genomic selection can be also used by using the genomic estimated breeding value. What we have learned in our case, that in case of wheat, we could discard 20 to 30% lines for each of the trait without much difficulty, but still we cannot select the top 10 or 20%. But still, you can discard your 20%, let's say for yield, for quality, for diseases, untested diseases. You can cull your number of lines going to the yield trial. And by doing that, which we implemented, the first year yield testing or stage 1 yield testing was expanded from 1 environment to 4 environments this year. So we could make gains much faster. But the other aspect here is we need to start to use the allelic fingerprint-based data in parental selection to predict crosses. What crosses have high probability of giving you better progeny? We haven't done, but this is one area I think we need to apply the artificial intelligence and need to work on it, so you get those predicted cross by computers rather than trying to do ourselves, which gets very difficult because this is too much data to handle by us. We are also working with this DART company to this platform, which is a low-cost shared facility. Anyone can genotype with roughly $12 US cost. But this SNP platform was built for CIMMYT germplasm, let's say. So it's going to be very useful, simpler to use than you send to a platform getting 60,000 data points for markers. That gets very complex. And we checked the markers are also well distributed on different chromosomes, as you could see. And also we checked the prediction accuracy using the older platform and this DARTAC platform. And you could see for many traits, the responses are associated, means we could swiftly move to this new platform. So I think this will be useful to many other users. If I know my time probably is ending, but if you permit me a few more minutes, I'll take and go through quickly on diseases. Is that okay?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So durable disease resistance, we have worked a lot. Rust diseases are key for wheat, as you know, everywhere worldwide. But then in specific environments, we have I have listed other diseases which are very important, and we are still working. And the main objective behind our work is to achieve resistance, durability, avoid epidemics, and minimize chemical control. I just took one example of yellow rust. Yellow rust, my friend late Dr. Nagarajan was used to say will not be important disease in India because the pathogen was different that time. Now we have confronted with this new aggressive group of Puccinia striformis or yellow rust, which have evolved and moved around the world, as you could see the map here, which has shown how yellow rust fungus is moving and causing early infection initiation, faster disease buildup, new areas of adaptation, faster evolution of new virulences, and reduced effectiveness of resistance. So we have confronted in the last now 20 years. So we are learning also, and we have to learn it faster to provide solution. This is the issue, and that is through faster development of new wheat varieties, and their adoption is one way. And the other way is to focus as much possible to use durable disease resistance concept, which has been known for quite some time now. In case of wheat leaf rust, we have applied, and you don't talk much about leaf rust. We don't talk much about leaf rust. I hope we get to that stage for yellow rust as soon as possible. But the concept here is to stay aware, or at least have in the background these so-called pleiotropic multi-pathogen resistance genes, such as LR34, LR46, LR67, which evolved in basically South Asian region, the variety C306, and probably the variety Professor B.P. Pal developed, that probably also must carry that gene, I would assume. And there are many other QTLs which are known. And it's such an easy concept if you think about, because you don't need marker really to pyramid. The pyramiding and selecting in field, if you know the parents have that kind of resistance, if you select for low disease, you already accumulate 4 to 5 such genes. And this is a simple concept we are have applied. Of course, you back it up with your genetic information. And what we have learned for other diseases, we have similar situation. And I like to bring up here the wheat blast situation, which was first detected in 2016 in Bangladesh. There are studies done, and the red area on the map are the possible vulnerable area people have identified based on temperature, and if humidity occurs at wrong time, so little warmer condition at flowering time and few rainfalls, you could have high blast incidence. But the good side is, luckily, I would say in this case, we were partially lucky, but also partially because we were testing wheat materials in Bolivia in South America, where this disease in South America started in 1985. So, but it had not spread out of Latin or South America. But germplasm was tested and resistance was identified. So there are more than a dozen varieties now. Practically all the new ones released in South Asia are now wheat blast resistant. And what we have learned from our GWAS work and some other studies, that one alien translocation, and that's where the importance comes from the cytogenetics work people have done and should continue to do to bring new diversity in wheat. This translocation, which is called 2NS translocation commonly, is from uh, Triticum ventricosum, is the only known source right now. Reduces disease, but we cannot count only on this for the future. We need to find, and we are failing at present to find new sources. So you could use, this is one disease I think people should apply, the gene editing perhaps. Or they start to look at alien genetic resources to find resistance, as the current case came from there. The spot blotch is another case. We have done a lot now. The BHU group did a lot there. And I say Professor Ramesh Chanje, he did a lot. But now we also know it's a QTL-based resistance, but 3 genes have been identified. Our germplasm, by testing now, we could improve it further. And this is something we could continue working, though lots of adequate resistance has been achieved. We also learned now this toxin sensitivity gene, which is giving susceptibility to spot blotch, 10 spots, stagnospora, so should not be present in improved wheat lines. So these are very simple approaches we need to apply in breeding. At CIMMYT, the speed breeding facility is now being used for speed backcrossing to introgress. We started with resistance genes which have effective markers, but that is becoming a limitation. So we are working to improve the markers for known genes. Or you can use any other genes for any other trait very quickly in a speed breeding facility that can be backcrossed and introduced into your very elite parental materials or varieties. The quality, I'll just take a couple of minutes to talk on it because I think it's very well known. You have to work, when you talk on quality, you have grain quality, flour and milling quality, then gluten quality. And finally, through baking, or if you make good chapati, that's the end use quality finally decided. It's a long procedure, very costly, but needs to be done and maintained to continue improving quality. We also learned what Dr. Nagendra Singh must be laughing that the work he did for his PhD work in Adelaide still is so relevant. And still we are learning about the role of high and low molecular weight glutenins, how they influence quality, which of these alleles are going to give us improved quality. So we have extensively analyzed this data for CIMMYT germplasm. And there are some summary here. If you want very good industrial bread, then you need to focus on GLU D1 5+10 allele. But perhaps if you want very good chapati, you are looking for gluten extensibility more than the strength. So you are looking for 2+12 allele. But there are so many combinations which can generate that we could get varieties which have good quality for bread as well as chapati, and that's where CIMMYT is pushing because that's the need of the market as well as people. Biofortified wheat. We all know this tweet I picked up from one of my old presentations. There was so much excitement. 10 years, it took us 10 years from genetic resource transfer alleles to develop the first biofortified varieties, WB2, HP, bread wheat 01. And based on you could see picture how where the zinc goes in biofortified wheat compared to non-biofortified wheat grain. But because of that excitement, now we are moving towards the zinc mainstreaming. We want to have all our wheat carry high zinc. And this is so important for the hidden hunger. You increase zinc, we know the iron content also increases. Again, the genotypic data developed for genomic selection has been used to understand the underlying genetics. And we know that there are consistent regions showing up through GWAS. That means there is variability. We could do better parent selection using the fingerprint information for these QTLs or these alleles. We know there is good variation in parents. So we could select parents which combine high zinc with high yield. And to do that, all our fields in Obregon have been kind of homogenized by applying zinc sulfate. We have increased the zinc phenotyping. And this XRF machine is being used right now continuously 2 shifts. And with that, we could do more than 250 samples per day. So it's a non-destructive. So, and very precise estimation. So I'm sure you will see more and more new varieties in the future will be biofortified. And I'm sure the effort you are doing, which will also pay off. And finally, to conclude, what I like to say, reinstate that redesigned breeding, testing, and dissemination strategies have great potential to significantly increase genetic gains in farmers' field. So you could summarize by saying that we reduce 2 years in parental recycling from 5 years to 3 years now with this redefined scheme. 3 years reduce in delivering elite lines to partners. And that's where we need continued support. You need to modify it, as Dr. G.P. Singh has shown, multiple sites data from TPEs can very quickly substitute 1 or 2 years from variety registration trial. So accelerated variety release can be done in 6 years if we follow, or let's say 7 years. That's still cutting number of years from start to the end. Still people write, it takes 15 years to develop a variety. No, we can cut it. And if you combine all this together, of course, I did not talk about the agronomic practices to go about. I did not talk about the early sown wheat, because we also learned you can have varieties which are so flexible now. The new varieties, you can sow early in October, you can sow in November, you can perhaps sow in late November, which is also a requirement in climate change scenario, because you may not predict when you will be able to sow due to untimely rainfall. And in India, now you have seen and you have released same varieties for multiple zones, which shows that varieties, new varieties, climate resilient varieties also don't have borders. They can be sown very extensively on many different zones. And all these are good signs towards the climate change adaptation. And just a short note here, every 1% yield increase on 1 million hectare with current 3 tons per hectare average yield translates into 35,000 tons of grain worth roughly 70 crore. That's I'm mentioning such a small quantity. You multiply it to 10 million hectares, you multiply it to 30 million. Just think about the food and nutrition of number of people we can generate, or you can free up some of the areas to grow other crops, which are also the need of the day. With that, thank you very much. And thank you for giving me a few extra minutes. I did not want to go too fast on what I was saying. And again, once again, my appreciation and thank to Dr. AK Singh and his group and his student give me the opportunity, many donors who are still supporting us. Thanks to ICAR for your continued contribution to our wheat breeding effort and providing your network scientists, their willingness to work with us on this journey together since Green Revolution. And I hope this will be maintained no matter what happens in 1CGIR. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful deliberation. May I now request the chairman, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, sir, to present his valuable remarks.
Thank you very much. Of course, I can see all of you, but I can't see me today somehow. So, profuse thanks to Dr. Ravi P. Singh for an excellent, outstanding lecture. So this is unfortunately online. We could have given you a standing ovation, but we can give you a big clap. Let's give him a big hand. Yes. So you can. I believe it's a real treat for all of us, the scientists, the students, the faculty members, and everybody. So much to learn, so much to understand, and so much to think at what should we be doing and how we should be doing. So it's a huge kind of gain for all of us, Dr. Singh, and you have such a rich experience, several decades of experience of working in wheat, all aspects of it, and they are also prominently reflected in your deliberation of about 1 hour. Certainly, your emphasis on growing on diverse environment is so critical. And in Mexico itself, different sites, as you rightly said, how they provide opportunity to select the best. And more importantly, the different areas of the world. What you highlighted, a few times is the areas, the locations in India, TP 1, 2, 3, what you said, the target production environments or what a population environments or whatever. And also in other South Asian countries. So diverse is the environment. And obviously the opportunity to select is so huge. And select for specific environment is also so huge. And opportunity to select the best across environment so that one becomes a global variety, contributing to global, production is so huge. So that is the kind of strength of Summit. And that is what is outlined in your lecture, that how important it is that, to have diverse environments, evaluate them. And that is how one can have maximum mileage. What you highlighted is a partnership in the process, because if they are grown just in Summit and 1 or 2 locations, whatever diverse they are. So obviously the agroclimate offered by different continents and different countries and locations in different countries as diverse as in India. So that provides opportunity. So partnership has mattered. And I think that's very, very important. And you have highlighted, your talk has highlighted that how important is this partnership and how this partnership has flourished and how it has succeeded so eminently, and the process contributing to so many varieties and enhancing wheat productivity across the globe. You did mention about shuttle breeding and then its importance, starting from Dr. Bolluck's days, and that is still continuing. And partnership based on that and taking advantage of shuttle breeding. And in the process, deriving genetic gains. You did highlight genetic gains, and I believe my colleagues have taken note of that. How do we maximize genetic gain, and particularly for productivity, climate resilience, market acceptability, and nutrition. That's what you highlighted. And how do we enhance genetic gains? Unless we target and we define in the process, we will not be able to achieve genetic gain. As you highlighted, percent or more than 2% genetic gains. I'll not go into details because there's no point, going into it. But deriving lessons out of it for our colleagues, because what happens, we listen and we appreciate the very good lecture, and then when you go back, actually there's nothing to really work on. So as let's say, my objective is to capture your point so that my colleagues remember and try to put them in practice. So defining target traits, the product profile, combining them, what you described so elegantly is so important for us. And we do in our breeding programs to a certain extent, but I believe that if we can do this with more precisely, could be very, very useful. And you have in fact outlined yourself how we can really succeed in terms of choosing parents, the kind of diversity, the selection environment, the use of new technology, and very importantly, you highlighted how fast a delivery can actually save us. And you cited our own example that how different approaches have been used in this country to fast delivery, whether it is in terms of giving more of demonstrations or licensing and so on and so forth. So I believe that combining all these, we should be able to save time, and that's what you highlighted, that how we can save time. And saving time is so important. You talked about rapid bulk generation advancement scheme, and you did highlight that saving up time, 3 years of breeding cycle, and you did highlight role of speed breeding and pre-breeding and use of huge resource that we have already, and increase genetic gains. And very importantly, you highlighted by reducing breeding cycle, we can, certainly, without disturbing some other parameters in the numerator, the denominator component, if we can reduce, obviously there will be, rapid gains with regard to genetic gain. So these are some of the lessons we should learn from your lecture, and certainly we have new technologies you highlighted with regard to genomic selection, and particularly genomic selection, how we can use, particularly with regard to end use quality and then disease resistance, where excellent predictability you have highlighted. And you did mention genomic estimated breeding value, helping us to reduce, to eliminate or discard 20 to 30% of those non-performing ones. That's a very important message for us, that this particular approach can be utilized for that purpose. Of course, selecting top 10, the best ones, probably would require evaluation, but at least rejection is also equally important. And hopefully that message what we have given, we can have more discussion on how best we can use genomic selection in various breeding programs, not only in wheat, in other crops. And durable resistance, you did talk about, and yellow rust particularly, and how important it is, and how the effectiveness of host plant resistance are breaking are breaking down and is reduced in the process, how virulence is evolving and faster. So how important slow rusting genes and durable rust resistance is, all that were highlighted in your lecture. And I'm sure your message of having 4 to 5 genes to achieve near immunity is well taken, and my colleagues have noted down. We have been working in this aspect and for quite long, and your messages are always being observed in our breeding programs, and we have been learning quite a bit from CIMIT and CIMIT work, and I'm sure these messages are important as we have spoken today. The wheat blast is certainly, in neighboring country, we had this threat. We have been able to manage this effectively. More than 12 varieties in India, including DBW 187, getting identified. So, and then also other measures, safeguarding our interest in the border areas and taking adequate measures and several other things that we have taken into account and then did our best to manage this disease. But more importantly, that you talked about is the role of 2NS translocation and its role in on wheat blast resistance in 90% of the lines which carry this translocation. But besides the point, what you said is non-2NS resistance sources need to be really explored and exploited. And that message is clearly taken, and I believe my colleagues would have noted down. I did mention about spot bloods and other things, but the message regarding the quality aspect of wheat, we did work on various aspects of quality, but the role of different alleles of glutenin that you highlighted is so important with regard to the quality aspects, whether the grain quality or end-use quality. So those are clearly defined, and our breeding programs must be taking into account those aspects. Last part, the biofortification you highlighted, and we have 86 varieties by now this country has developed, including some of those in wheat. And our own program is going strong, and during past 6-7 years we have highlighted this. We have strengthened this program and also highlighted this. Honorable Prime Minister himself has released some of these varieties to the country and dedicated to the nation. And so that shows the importance of biofortification in this country. Zinc, iron biofortification in wheat is very important, and we have also made kind of thresholds for variety release in case of pearl millet. Without that threshold level, we are not going to release them. And similar levels, we are now discussing that we have to make in other crops. I'm sure the kind of faster screening methods, as you highlighted, the XRF and all that. So we do use the same technology, and we need to really select appropriate parents, combine these traits with high yield. DBW 187 and WB2 and some of those high yielding backgrounds in which the trait high zinc traits are there combined. So they help us in rapid coverage of area. Other crops, it has not moved as much as in case of wheat with regard to area coverage. But there is plenty of things to learn, and so much you have spoken about. Many lessons you talked about. Your summary slide gives how we can reduce the time taken for breeding. That's very, very important. Reducing from 12 years or sometimes even 14 years to just 6 years. That's the important message, and I believe we should be able to plan it out accordingly. How we can reduce parental recycling 2 years, or for that matter, delivery of elite lines 3 years, and so on and so forth. Whatever you have suggested, hopefully we should be able to take into account. and reduce the period which is taken for developing a new variety, and have a rapid genetic gains in the process. The environmental factors, the climate change, the heat, and all that, which are now challenging wheat production globally and more so in India. And today I was reading that how the global community wants India to continue to restart the export. And it's so important, if we one season we fail, a global community would be in a serious situation, food situation across the globe would be threatened. So how do we actually double the genetic gain, and how do we go faster, reduce the time taken, and how best we can design our breeding programs, and how do we actually take into account the trait combinations, the market traits, the productive traits, and climate resilience traits, and all taken together, and use technology like genetic selection and speed breeding, and all taken together. How do we actually succeed? Your presentation clearly revealed and provided us many lessons. So thank you very much for this elegant lecture, excellent lecture, and it was quite educative, and we are far more enriched by your lecture, Dr. Singh. So profuse thanks once again. Let's give him once again a big hand, and for his time to deliver this lecture. So you can't see my clap. Thank you very much, because I can't be seen today. So thanks, Dr. AK Singh, for giving us this opportunity, all of us, to learn from the rich experience of Dr. RP Singh, but also giving me opportunity to be part of this, a historical, event and occasion, where we have this eminent speaker today. So thank you very much. Thanks to all the organizers for being here. Thanks to everybody all the stalwarts, the leaders and guides being present, the teachers who have taught, not only Dr. Ravi Singh, but all of us being present here. So thanks to all of you. Dr. AK Singh, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for the insightful comments. I now request Dr. Rashmi Agarwal, Dean and Joint Director, IRI, to present the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Angel. Most respected Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, Secretary DARE and DG ICR, and Chairman of today's function. Eloquent speaker of 29th BP Paul Memorial Lecture, Dr. Ravi P. Singh, distinguished scientist and head wheat improvement global wheat program, CIMIT, Mexico. Our distinguished guests, whom I see there are very many distinguished dignitaries and guests among us who have joined today. Directors of the Sister Institutes Outreach Program, our PPVFRA Chairperson, Dr. K.V. Prabhu, directors, former directors and deans of IRI, then project director, joint directors of IRI, heads of the division, professors, scientists, faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my pleasure and proud privilege to propose a formal words of thanks on the successful completion of our 29th Dr. B.P. Paul Memorial Lecture today. And on behalf of directors, scientists, staff, and students, and on my personal behalf, I would like to pay our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Ravi P. Singh for kindly accepting our invitation to deliver this most prestigious lecture of Dr. B.P. Paul Memorial Lecture. And he has spoken on the topic that is very, very relevant in today's wheat breeding for global food and nutrition security under climate change. And we place on record our heartfelt greetings and thankfulness to Dr. Ravi P. Singh for a very, very educative and thought-provoking lecture. Sir, you are really, we are really proud of you that you are leading this and your tremendous contributions are there for Global Wheat Improvement Program. And we are highly grateful to the chairperson of this today's function, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, Secretary Dear and DGICR, who has been very kind enough to consider our request to preside over this function. Sir, we feel every time honored and motivated with your benign and affectionate presence, and you have very nicely summarized the whole lecture and given us a lot of ideas to take home message. I record my sincere thanks to all ICR officials, including ADG Dr. DK Yadava, for joining this very important lecture today online. I place on record high gratefulness to all distinguished dignitaries and guests. I will name them: Professor R.B. Singh, Professor S.L. Mehta, Professor Anupam Verma, Professor B.D. Singh, Professor R.M. Singh, Professor P.L. Gautam, Dr. K.V. Prabhu, and Dr. R.K. Jain, former Dean IRI, then Dr. P.L. Gautam, Dr. Vasal, and Dr. Mithunjia, Dr. K.C. Bansal, former Director NBPGR, then Dr. G.P. Singh, Director IWBR, and very many distinguished wheat researchers, breeders, Dr. Ravish Chatrat, Dr. Arun Kumar Joshi from Regional Coordinator CIMIT Program, and Dr. Ramesh Chand from wheat program from BHU, and many other directors of sister institutes, director of NIPB and IAAB, and I think I must have left few names of distinguished guests, but it's my heartfelt gratitude to all of you, that Dr. Lakshmi Kanta from Almora. So all those wheat workers who were very enthusiastically joined today and listened to Dr. Ravi P. Singh's very, very scintillating lecture today. So my heartfelt thanks to each one of you for joining today. I record my sincere thanks to our director, Dr. AK Singh, for all the guiding force behind organizing this very successful function today. I also extend my sincere thanks to all others, joint directors and professors, heads, scientists, staff, students of IRI who joined in large number, and they all got a lot of ideas out of your very important lecture today. I extend my sincere thanks to my colleagues, Dr. R.R. Burman, for arranging this online link and flyer, Dr. J.P. Mishra and Dr. Vinod from Genetics Division, Dr. Angel for anchoring this important event. I would also place on record my sincere thanks to Dean's personal staff, PG school staff, and also Dr. K.M. Manjaiya, Associate Dean, for successfully organizing and helping me in organizing this event online today. So once again, with these words, I thank you, each one of you, having joined this function today online. Thank you so much, and good evening to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Next time, see you in India.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you,
Really
sir.
happy to have you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll close.
Bye-bye. Please share all the comments which people wrote.
Yeah, a
That
lot
will
of
be-
comments are there, sir. All I have appreciated, sir, very much, sir. There are more than 40 chats, and all have really congratulated you, sir.
Thanks.
I will send, we are saving a copy and we will send it
Yes,
across.
Okay, that
Yeah.
will be appreciated. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Okay.
Good evening. Good morning.
Manish, make sure that you save the entire this thing, no?
Saved us.
Yeah, right. So we close this meeting now, sir? All? All right, so big thank you to each one of you, and bye-bye. I am closing the meeting now. Thanks.